those of you who are following me on Instagram have probably already seen this animation. I've had quite a few requests. So today I'm going to be showing you how I made it step by step. Obviously this is my original, but the one we'll be making is more or less the same. We're going to be covering modeling, physics, the materials, stuff like that. And I'll even be covering just quickly mentioning the biome add-on, which is free, which I use to do the kind of grass effect as well. So if you guys want to, learn, keep watching, and I will be uploading my original result to Patreon as always. And just real quick, if you ever want to take your Blender skills further and you want some high quality courses, you can look in the description below, and you can actually use my link to get 1 month of free Skillshare, all in the description below. And you can even check out, once you do that, some of my courses. They're all Blender at the moment, and they take you step by step from making some really awesome projects, and it comes with all of the files and resources, and it's just really cool. So far I've had hundreds of students and the feedback has been fantastic. So in the description below, and let's get started with this tutorial. So jump into a new scene in Blender, and as always we're just going to grab the default objects and just delete them. Okay, we're going to start off by going Shift A, and under our mesh options, let's add in a circle. I'm going to tab into edit mode, and we're going to do something really simple here. We're just going to go into our top orthographic view with all of these verts selected. We're going to go E to extrude, S to scale, just like this. And then while we're still in top orthographic view, we're just going to select these 2 verts down here. And then we're going to go Control I to inverse the selection, so everything else is active, and we're going to go X and delete those verts. So all we have now is this over here. So we're now going to go to our modifiers. We're going to give it a screw modifier. You're going to see it's going to spin it all around. And then what we need to do is come here to the screw. And this is where you're going to determine the height of your segments. And this is where you're going to come to the iteration as well. And you're going to increase or decrease that amount to make the amount of segments. Now I'm going to go with 2 segments like this. Now if you want to make a ridiculously tall tower where it just keeps spinning down, go ahead. But I don't really see the point in going too high. So I'm just going to go with 2 segments. And you can do whatever you want. So once you have it in place, you have the height set to what you want. I'm going to go something like this. I will recommend, just keep in mind, you don't want to go too low because then your ball would kind of get jammed in between here, which you don't really want. So give it some good height, maybe something like this. And it'll also go a bit faster if you give it some height. Once you're happy, you're going to tab out. And what you're going to do is you're going to apply this in object mode. You're going to tab back in. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go to your edge select, and you can go Shift Alt. And then left click on this edge and left click on this edge. You have the 2 edges active. You go Shift D to duplicate, right click to let go. And then you're going to go Control I, and it's going to inverse the selection. So you select everything else. You can go X and delete those verts. So now you're only left with these spirals. You're going to tab back out. You're going to give this a subdivision surface modifier and bump it up a few times, and then go ahead and apply. Then you're going to press F3, and you're going to come here and type in convert. And you're going to convert to curve. So if you tab in now, you can see this is a curve object. I'm going to tab back out, and let's go over to our curve properties, or object data properties for the curve, and we're going to just go to our geometry tab, and under the bevel we're going to come here to the depth, and let's give it a bit of depth. Now you can give this whatever you want. I'm going to recommend not going too crazy with it. I think it looks better if you just have something around about this sort of scale. You're going to right click, go a shade smooth, of course. And let's go F3, and let's just type in convert again, but this time we're going to convert it back to mesh. So click on mesh. Now we have mesh again, and that's looking pretty cool. Okay, so we've made something that's relatively complicated looking with some very simple steps. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go Shift A, and this is purely optional, but I like doing this in the end as a cap. I'm just going to add in a UV sphere, quickly scale it down. It doesn't have to be any particular size, just as long as it's smallish. And then we're just going to go G, Y in the top view and just move it so it's kind of underneath where this end of this thing is over here. And I'm going to scale it down maybe a bit more, and I'm going to go Shift D to duplicate and move one over so it's underneath this end cap over here. I'm just going to grab these 2 and I'm going to move them up till they're kind of positioned just over these 2 here as a cap. And I'm going to then grab this one, maybe move it in a little bit more. And then I'm going to tab into the curve object here that we have turned into a mesh. I'm just going to move that in a little bit. Something like this. It doesn't have to be exactly the same way I'm doing it, but you're going to grab these 2 objects once you have them roughly in place, and you're going to join them to this. So you're going to grab them both, holding in Shift, select the spiral, and go Control J or Command J to join the whole thing. Right click again and just go Set Shade Smooth. And now we have that bit done. Okay, so now it gets easier. We're going to go Shift A. We're going to add in a circle. I'm going to tab into edit mode, and we're going to go to our vertex select option, we're going to go E to extrude, S to scale. And let's go about this much. Then we're going to go G, Z, and we're going to move it down, making a funnel. And maybe scale it just a bit more. Then we're going to go E to extrude and Z and extrude it down, like so. And then we're going to grab this outer edge, we're going to scale it a little bit. E to extrude and Z to extrude it up, to make a little bit of a ledge, so the ball doesn't fly out. E to extrude, S to scale again, just to make a little bit of an edge here, and then E to extrude and Z, and extrude it down about this much. Okay, this is the height of the thing. I'm going to tab back out, and let's give this a bevel modifier. Let's bring that bevel amount down. Let's give it a few segments, and let's give this a subdivision surface modifier. And of course, let's right click and go shade smooth. So now what you want to do is you want to grab the whole thing like this, and in your front view, you want to go G, Z, and just move it up until it's kind of sitting on the floor like this. So you have the bottom of this thing here roughly on the floor. And you can grab this spiral and go G, Z, and just move it up as well a little bit. And of course, if you want, you can just kind of grab these two things in here in edit mode, these two edges, and just fill them by pressing F. And maybe even give them a little bit of a bevel if you want. That's optional, just to kind of neaten things up. But you kind of want this thing just so it's going to go down into this funnel here. So now I'm just going to make sure to save. I'm just going to go toot for tutorial. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go to our front view. We're going to go Shift A. Let's add in a UV sphere. Right click, go shade smooth. And let's go S to scale them down, G to move it up. And at this point, you want to think about the scale here. If you make this too big, then by the time the ball gets around here, it's going to kind of jam in between this point here. So you want to make sure the ball is small enough so that doesn't happen, okay? And then once you have it at the scale you need, you're going to go Control A and apply that scale. Then you're going to go into your top view and go G and just move it over the top over here. And then go G, Z, and just move it till it's just kind of sitting on top here like that. It doesn't have to be touching because it'll kind of just fall down on its own. But just as you have it in place here, and it shouldn't roll back because we have these little caps here, which kind of look cool as well. So now what we're going to do, make sure that the scale is applied. So Control A, apply that scale, because we're working with our rigid bodies. And then you're going to go over to your physics with it active. You're going to give it a rigid body. Make sure it's set to active, but under the shape here, you're going to change it to sphere. And then we're going to grab our spiral here. We're going to go rigid body. We're going to set it to passive because it's not moving. And we're going to change the shape to mesh. And then we're going to grab this bottom funnel here. We're going to do the same thing, rigid body, make it passive, and we're also going to make it mesh. We're now going to go to frame 1, like so. And let's just hit the space bar just to have a quick test. And we can already see that this is working quite well. Okay, it's really, really cool. Now, if your ball gets to this point here and it gets jammed, you just have to scale your ball down a little bit and just apply it again and then run the simulation if you run into that problem. In my case, I might actually just scale my ball up just a little bit because I think it's a bit too small, and then apply the scale. And I think that's going to look a lot better. So it's completely up to you. This is very customizable. I'm just kind of teaching you guys the rough workflow here. Okay, so we have that done. What we need to do is we need to go to our end frame value, and let's give this at least 400 frames. And let's go over to our rigid, because if we actually were to run this now, it's going to just end at 250 because we need to go to our scene properties. We need to go to rigid body world, and under the cache, we need to give it some more frames. So let's make it 400 to match the end frame value of our animation. Let's go to frame 1. Let's just hit the space bar and let's see if this ball will make it all the way into the hole with the kind of time frame we have here. Now, one of the reasons I can't just say to you, add this exact value is because when you're dealing with physics, things can be different. You have random seed values, your setup could be a little bit different. So it's not necessarily going to work for everybody. So in this case, I might have to go ahead now and actually just go to the cache here and maybe make it 500 and come to my end frame value here and make it 500. And then once again, go to frame 1, hit the space bar, and hopefully this time that'll be enough to kind of get the ball in here. And if it isn't, I'm going to show you another trick we can try, but for now, let's just see if this will work. And like I said, it may be different for you. Really just depends on how things are set up. So you can see here, okay, it's really rolling around a lot. It just barely made it in. So let's just grab the funnel and let's just grab this edge here and go G, Z, and move it down a little bit to make it more sharp. And hopefully now it'll fall in a lot faster. So it's one of those things you're just gonna have to do to kind of see how this works. And you have to go back to frame 1 every time, run the simulation again, but it's not too bad. It should be pretty fast. even if you got a lower end computer. And there we go, it's in. So in this case, I'll probably take it down to 450 frames, as it seems like it's not necessary to go too crazy, and I'll set my end frame value to 450. Like I said, this number may vary for you. So now that we have this done, make sure to save, and let's grab our funnel here. We're going to tab into edit mode and select this edge here and go Shift D to duplicate. Right click and then go P, and let's separate by selection. So now we have a separate edge. Grab that in object mode, tab in there and select it and go E to extrude, S to scale. And let's go over here to our overlays, and let's just enable normals. We can see the normals are pointing the wrong way, so press A to select everything, Alt N, and go flip. So now they're pointing up. That's going to matter with our shaders later. And let's just grab this edge over here. Let's go E to extrude, S to scale, make it even bigger. And let's go E to extrude and Z, move it up and then scale it. Something like this, and tab back out, right click and go shade smooth. So now we have this, and our camera won't look out of our world too much. It'll kind of just be seeing the floor the whole time. So now what we can do is we can go Shift A, any position we want, add in a camera. And you can position your camera however you like. I'm going to go something like this, and we're going to go Shift A, we're going to add in a empty. Let's go for cube. And this empty here is going to be your focal point. So for now, let's just actually grab the floor here and just go H to hide it. Then we can see a bit better. We're going to grab this empty and scale it. And let's just start it over here where our ball starts. Essentially, that's just going to be where our camera is focused. In fact, let's grab our camera. Let's go over to our camera settings. Let's go enable depth of field. And let's grab that eyedropper. With the eyedropper, select that empty, so we have that as our focal point. And then while you still have the camera active, just go over to your object constraints properties. And let's just give that I think a damped track. Click on the eyedropper, select that empty. And then let's just set it to -Z, and that should work. So now you can see if we grab that empty, we move it around, it's only focused here. And if we grab our camera and move it, it'll only ever look at where that is. So in this case, I'm just gonna move my camera however I want. And I'm going to grab this and kind of move it till I want it where the focal point is. So at this point, what you can do, and you can grab your camera, and this is completely up to you. Go to frame 1 and you can enable auto keying and then go I, insert location and rotation, and then you can just kind of drag, at least play your animation. So I'm going to play my animation, and as things are going along, I'm just going to kind of go ahead and move my camera. So in this case, I'll go to the top view, move my camera, and you can see the camera rotates. So I'm just going to go R to rotate it to fix that, like so. So we're starting here, and you can see, and this is completely up to you. I'm going to go another probably 100 frames or so, or maybe just go back to where we were, hit the space bar. So what I'm going to do is just go back to frame 1 again and just run the simulation. In fact, what we should probably do to make this a bit better is just turn off auto keying for now. And let's just go to our scene properties. And for our rigid body world, let's just go ahead and bake. And if we bake this in, then we can drag through here and we can see it in real time. Just make sure to save. So now we can, with our camera active, we can just go auto key again, just drag through here, and now we can just very conveniently move our camera, and this is optional, you know, just move it around the scene a bit so you see it from different perspectives. So you can see this is what we got. And then what you can do as well is you can grab this empty here, and you can also move this empty. So as we're going through here, I would actually have the empty kind of roughly looking where the ball is. So I'm just dragging through the animation here, kind of moving the empty there, and that also makes it the focal point, which is kind of really cool. So you can see here, this is what you have, and it just makes it look really cool. You kind of like have a cameraman looking at the camera. So then in this case, I'll drag through a little bit, maybe move it over here. And you guys kind of get the idea, and you can go between that empty and your camera at any point in your animation. You can kind of move them along. Sometimes it helps just to kind of go out of the camera view a bit and just kind of get a feel for your animation. And you can, like I said, at any point, grab that empty and kind of move it along. Okay, in this case, I probably don't want my empty to be quite there, so I might move it out a bit. So this is going to look different for you depending on how you have things set up. but we just want to kind of this nice camera movement that's kind of trying to focus on the ball. And the more you kind of mess around with it and adjust it, it's going to look like somebody's actually holding the camera and moving it around. But just kind of get those movements and kind of pretend that you're holding the camera and you're trying to film this in an actual environment, and it should look more or less natural. So once you have something you like, what you can do now is go Alt-H to bring back that floor. I have turned off the auto keying, and now we can save, go into our camera view, and let's maybe start frame 1. And in frame 1, I'm just going to grab this empty here. I'm not quite happy with that. I'm just going to move that more to the middle here, and also grab my camera and just rotate it. Okay, turn off auto keying. So once you have a position that you like, where you kind of want to view this from, what you're going to do is you're going to go to your render settings, enable cycles. If you have a GPU, I recommend you use your GPU. If you go to the render samples, let's just make it 45. That should be more than enough. Enable denoising. Then you're going to go to your world properties. You're going to give this a sky texture. Now if you go Z and you get rendered, you can see the render here. Just go Control B and drag over your camera to limit the render to the camera. And then go Shift A and add in an area light and go G, Z and move it up. And with this area light here, let's give it a strength of 120 and increase the size to 2.5. And then in your right orthographic view, you're just going to duplicate that light and rotate it in like so for a bit of rim lighting. I might actually just bring that light more to the side. Completely up to you how you want to light this. So now we have some lighting. So what you're going to do now is you're going to go to the internet, and I'll put a link in the description below to these two materials. So you got the one here, it's a laminated floor, and you've got one here that is this square concrete pavers. Now keep in mind, all you have to do, by default, it should be a blend file. You're just going to download this. It's going to download a zip folder. Inside of that zip folder is a blend file, okay? And all you have to do once you have downloaded these two zip folders is extract them somewhere in your computer. I've already done that. I know where they are on my computer. So what we're going to do, once you've done the same thing, is you're going to go into your scene. You're going to go to File. You're going to just click on Append. And now you're going to find wherever that is. Now for me, I've already put that in a folder on my computer. And I'm going to go ahead and get it. So the first one's going to be the laminated floor, which once again is this one here. And I'm going to click on that. Inside is a blend file, and then you're going to go to Material, and then click on that floor material and go Append. Then we're going to go File, Append again, and then the second one, which you should also have downloaded the zip folder for and extracted, is going to be the square concrete pavers. You're going to click on the blend file, click on the materials, and then click on that material, the pavers. So now what we're going to do is select this funnel here, go to our materials properties, come to the drop down, and let's give that the square concrete pavers. Let's select this floor over here, and let's go ahead to the drop down and give that the laminate floor. So now we're going to go to our shading workspace, and with our floor here active in our UV editing, sorry, I said shading workspace, I meant UV editing. So in your UV editing workspace, you can select this, press A to select everything, and then go U and go unwrap, and then just unwrap it. So now if you go Z and you go material preview, you can see the scale of the floor here. I might actually grab it over here and just scale it up. And since it is seamless, you won't get any kind of weird looking areas where it doesn't kind of match up. It should all match up beautifully. So I'm going to scale mine up a bit till I like the way it looks. That looks good. Tab back out, and now let's select this one here. We are still in our material preview. Select the funnel, tab into edit mode, and then you can come here and you can just select the different edges. So I'm going to select this edge here and this edge here, and then this one and this one. I'm going to go Control E and I'm going to go Mark Seam. And then I'm just going to select these faces and go U and go Unwrap. And it should unwrap it quite nicely. And what you're going to do is over here, you can grab them and scale them till you like the way it looks. Got some weird kind of something weird happening here. I'm not quite sure what it is. You might have to move things around a bit. But the idea here is just to unwrap. And you can also grab the inside faces here and you go U and unwrap. And then once again, with the material preview on, you can try and match the scale to everything else. And then just grab this inside tube and then go U, and let's just go UV Smart Unwrap for that one. And once again, just try and kind of get the scale correct. Then just select all of it, and now you can just go S and scale it to whatever scale you want. As long as it's nicely UV unwrapped, you can tab out, and now you have your tiles over here. So let's go into our camera view. And now we have our material. So if you now go Z and you go rendered, you can see our materials are looking quite good. I think the world environment's a bit bright, so I'm going to go to my world properties. I'm just going to take it down to 0.5 instead. Okay, and now we have to just grab our spiral here. This is simple. We're just going to give it a material, make it metallic, and then bring down that roughness. And let's make the value here a little bit darker for the base color. And then you can select your ball and you can do whatever you want. I'm just going to go with a material. I'm going to go down to my transmission and make it all the way up to 1. I'm going to go to my roughness and bring it down a bit. And I'm going to go to my base color and just make it lightly blue. So we have kind of like this frosty blue glass looking ball, and or maybe even a bit more saturated. Something like that. But you guys get the idea. And by the way, at any point you can, once you've obviously deleted your bake under the cache, you can just duplicate this ball as many times as you want to make more of them, add different materials. You can add as many balls as you want, and then just make sure to bake the simulation again. But I'm just going for 1 in this particular example. I'm going to go back to the layout, and now you're pretty much done with this. Now what you can do as well is, with my original, I just selected a segment like this. I made a segment that I separated like this around here, and what I did is I used a free add-on called Biome. So I'll quickly show you guys. You can get this Biome for Blender, and there's a lot of tutorials on it. It's just called Biome. You can watch the one with Ask NK where he shows how to set it all up. I've got it downloaded. It's completely free, so I'm not going to show you in this tutorial how to install it. So you guys can go ahead and do that, but once you have it, it's easy to use. So I'm going to quickly use it, but this is completely optional. Once you have it, you're just going to open the Biome Reader, click on the little eyedropper, and then select the object you want to scatter onto, and then go Open Biomes. And then the one we're going to be using, if you've gone ahead now and installed it, it's just under the grass. Well, let's just go with the one here. It has little purple flowers. It's going to load it in. And now it's all added in here for us, and it's looking absolutely fantastic. So now if we go Z and we go rendered, we've got these nice little decorative border here, which I think just looks really cool. So yeah, that's how simple it is to use the Biome Reader. So I hope you guys are able to install that as well. But at this point as well, you can just go ahead and go to your render settings, and let's just also enable motion blur, and just select your camera, of course. And what you could do with your camera is just go over to your camera and increase the focal length to 75 maybe. And then under your depth of field, which we enabled, just bring that down a bit, so you just get a bit more of a shallow focus here, so the background is a bit softer. But other than that, I think this has been really easy to do overall. You can also grab your floor. With my original, I just went into the floor material and I went Shift A search over here, and I got a hue and saturation value. I put it on here, and in my render mode I went and took that value down just to make the floor a little bit darker, not too dark. I think that just looked a bit better, but go ahead once you're ready, give it a render the image, and let's see what this looks like. And there we have it. It's looking really good. And even if you didn't add the plants with the Biome, the free Biome plugin, this still looks really good. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial. And I'll show you my original here, which by the way is the exact same thing. I've just added a few more spirals, pretty much, a few more balls, but it's the same thing. And I've just added 3 balls. But using the tutorial I just showed you, you can make this as well. So this is going on to Patreon, and you can check the link in the description. It also really helps support the channel. And if you guys want to try out Skillshare for free for 1 month, you can also use my link in the description below. I'll see you guys next time for another tutorial.